Hi guys, and welcome back to another painting tutorial. So today I'm going to take you through another method I have for painting green cloaks. I have previously done a couple on green cloaks, however I wanted to do one for ACRYL Ventris. So as you can see, I've just laid down a couple of thin layers of CALIBAN green, and now straight moving on to the first highlight, which is a mix of CALIBAN green and Warpstone glow. Now I decided that I wanted the recesses to be quite green as well, so I've actually left out the shading for this cloak. However, for this particular cloak, there isn't a lot of really deep recesses, so I figured it would look okay, and I was pretty happy with the end result. So as you can see, just using my wet palette, I've already got all the paint, all the different colors ready to go. And it's really important with each progressive highlight, just layer them on really smoothly. As you can see, it's a very thin coat, obviously going to have to go back and apply a couple more. But just be really patient with it and just gradually blend up those colors. So as you can see, some of the Warpstone glow and CALIBAN green mix overlapped a little bit too much for my liking, so I've just gone back to the CALIBAN green whilst the paint is still wet, and I'm just going to gradually tidy up those colours in the recesses. And this is the wonderful thing of having a wet palette as well, just being able to jump back and forth between colours to correct anything. It's especially useful for painting cloaks, but obviously many other details as well. Now for the next highlight, I'm just going to use some Warpstone glow on its own. And once again, just some really thin layers and gradually working up on the most raised areas. Just to mention as well, obviously I've mentioned this quite a lot in my more recent tutorials, so for those who are regular watchers, you'll definitely know what brush I'm using by now. However, for those that are new to the channel, welcome, and just to let you know, the brush that I'm using is a Raphael 8404 size 3.0 brush. It's just my go-to detail brush at the moment. It's just an all-rounder really good brush, and it's quite affordable as well. So I definitely recommend checking out the Raphael 8404 range if you're unsure as to what brushes to go for, because they certainly, in my opinion, fit in the high quality category of brushes, but not as expensive as your sort of Artis Opus and Winsor & Newton, for example. So if you are on more of a budget, I definitely recommend checking out the Raphael range. So just continue to work up the Warpstone glow highlights, and then we'll move on to the next stages. So I was really happy with how the cloak was looking at this point. However, I wanted to bring out the details a little bit more. So just using a mix now of Warpstone Glow and Moot Green, I'm once again just going to follow over all of the previous Warpstone Glow highlights. However, with each progressive highlight, just really try and focus more and more on the most raised areas. And as you can see, I'm also, it is quite thinned down as well. I'm just really gradually blending that across on the cloak as well. Just where I sort of pictured most of the light hitting onto the cloak. So I just wanted to add a little bit of vibrancy. So a good method to do that, as you can see, I was just using the side of my brush. So you can just very lightly move it back and forth, just using the side of your brush. But just, yeah, most importantly though, make sure that the paint is fairly thinned down, as you certainly don't want to be applying details like that on if the paint's quite thick, as you'll start to get streak marks. So certainly more time consuming, but definitely worth it in my opinion. So as you can see, just layering that up once again. You'll find as well, when you're applying really thin coats like this, they will dry fairly quickly. So essentially starting on one side of the cloak, and then you can go to the next part, work your way down, and then just go back. By the time you do get back to it, it should be dry by that point. And for the next highlight, I'm just going to use Moot Green on its own. So as you can see at this point, I'm using a lot more precision, so just the very tip of my brush and just very carefully working in these highlights on the most raised areas of the cloak. As I really didn't want this step to take away too much from the rest of the greens. Now you can, of course, skip this step if you are intending on painting Green Cloaks. However, I wanted to add one final touch of vibrancy, so I just used an even mix of Moot Green and white. So I used heavy titanium white by ACRYL. However, any white acrylic will do just fine, as is always the case. It really just comes down to preference, really, when you find a white acrylic that you really love working with. It took me quite a few years to find the one that I love, but it definitely is the heavy titanium white by ACRYL. For a time prior to that, it was Dead White by Vallejo. However, I just really love the overall look of it, and it just has the most, it's the easiest sort of white paint to control that I've used out of any other white acrylic, and the key selling point for me is that it doesn't clump up easily whatsoever. So I've owned this heavy titanium white for a while now, and it hasn't got any clumps in it at all. It's certainly one of the pros of ACRYL, no pun intended. It's just it's a really good range of paints. So yeah, definitely recommend checking those out. But yeah, really just following over all of the Moot Green, as you can see. And here are some photos of ACRYL Ventress and of course the completed Green Cloak. So I hope you found this tutorial useful today. I had a great time painting this mini. Plenty more new tutorials coming in the near future, but leave a comment below of something that you might like to see me do in the near future as well. And if you would like to support the channel further, the links are in the description below if you're intending on buying any of your hobby needs. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does support the channel. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one.